Hi everyone, a very good evening to all of you. My name is Ashna Sisodia and you are watching this session on Unacademy's YouTube channel, Articulate. In today's class, we are going to discuss why China's Belt and Road Initiative is a concern for the world. This particular session is very important for those students, those who are having political science and international relation as their optional. Apart from this, it is beneficial for you for General Studies Paper 2 International Relation section. So let us try to understand today what is this Belt, Road and Initiative that was launched by China in 2013 and why it is a cause of concern for the rest of the world. So first of all, one thing that I want to clear is that there will be such more sessions on India-China relation this month where we will be targeting major issues between India and China. We will discuss the border dispute, Brahmaputra dispute, Doklam standoff, South China Sea dispute in the upcoming sessions. And our target for the day is we are going to cover Belt and Road Initiative. So let us start with this. Now, first of all, Belt and Road Initiative, currently it is a $4 trillion investment. Currently, this is the amount that is supposed to be invested in this project. So China is going to spend $4 trillion to develop supply chains through road, rail and ports and supporting infrastructure and operating systems on a global basis. So under the Belt and Road Initiative, there are three major initiatives that are part of it. One is going to be, this is the latest in addition, that is Polar Silk Route, also called as the Arctic Route. We know that because of climate change, because of global warming, the ice in the Arctic region is melting. And therefore, in the coming years, we may see that this route will become navigable. And there is a lot of potential here, especially energy. We are talking about oil and gas potential. That is why China has recently announced Polar Silk Route. Apart from this, there is Silk Road Economic Belt, which is going to connect China with the Eurasian region, with the European market. Apart from that, there is Maritime Silk Road Initiative. So in total of 3 routes as such, majorly it covers. So let us try to understand first of all, what is the purpose of Belt and Road Initiative? The purpose is to secure trade and supply chains for China. We know that China is currently facing economic slowdown, and this is not something new because for a very long time, China remained invested within its domestic market. But as it has reached the threshold, now China is looking for the outside world. It is looking for markets in Eurasian region to be particular, so as to make sure that there is a constant supply chain and trade that it can secure, which can bring prosperity to China in future. So, Belt and Road Initiative is announced to create prosperity via trade. Although China has said that this is going to bring prosperity in the less well-off and less secure nations. So what is this policy? In short, we can say that this is peace via trade and this is to ensure supply chain connectivity. Now this is something which has been highlighted recently a lot. especially after the pandemic. We all are aware of this thing that when COVID 19 started, that's when the supply chain management got disrupted, which highlighted the dependency of the world on China. So, in the coming years, definitely the world is going to work upon reducing this dependency on China, but China is not going to remain silent. China is making sure that this supply chain connectivity remains, and China is trying to, bring peace via trade. Well, this is the narrative that China is trying to portray right now. So, how did the Belt and Road Initiative get its name? Because originally this project was called as One Belt and One Road. However, it became apparent that it would be more than just one belt and one road, and that's why they changed the name. They introduced a new name to this project, that is Belt and Road Initiative, which was changed in 2016. And the Belt and Road Initiative was first announced by Chinese president. It is his ambitious project as Chinese state policy at an infrastructure investment conference. They have announced it in Kazakhstan. They announced it in 2013. So remember that it was announced in 2013, but by 2016 the name was changed to Belt and Road Initiative. Now the question is, when did the Belt and Road Initiative start? See, as far as China is concerned, China had been going through a significant internal infrastructure building since the early 1990s. So some may say that Belt and Road Initiative started in the early 1990s because it was that time when China started investing in railway infrastructure, developing railway infrastructure within China. Of course, it provided a lot of opportunity to the domestic labor, and this brought prosperity. Specifically in 2008 global financial crisis, China was not impacted by it. Why? Because China was looking inward at that time. So it was announced that China would provide overseas finance and outbound investment as a state policy in 2013. So the genesis of it goes back to 1990s. It started a long time ago, but officially it has been announced in 2013. And when will the Belt and Road Initiative be completed? The main portion of the required infrastructure build is expected to continue until 2035. And what is the Belt and Road Initiative current status? Well, currently 147 countries with China funded infrastructure projects, they are involved, and these projects are being undertaken globally except for the European Union and United States. Why not EU and United States? Because they have their own development schemes. Like in case of United States, it is Build Back Better World, B3W, in short we can call it that, and Globally Connected Europe, which is a development scheme of European Union. Although they seem to be targeted at their own infrastructure needs and they are not investing internationally, but you need to remember that for 147 countries, they are involved currently in this project. And why do you think this initiative has been announced? Because back in ancient days, China and much of East Asia, they were connected to the rest of the world through a route that got its name from China's biggest export, silk. We all know that this silk route was very famous. In fact, if you have covered modern history, ancient history, there is a mention of that also. that this Silk Route was used by many travelers, those who used to come to India, those who used to write their travel accounts. And so today, China is looking to rebuild a route that will be able to connect Asia, Africa, and Europe. So it is going to be a new Silk Road. It wants to revive that. So this initiative was announced in 2013, and please remember that this is not one project. Now it has 6 major routes which will include railway lines, roads, ports, and other infrastructure. It seems like a very natural step for the world's biggest trading country. So this project is going to impact 4.4 billion people. China is said to be spending $1 trillion initially on it, but currently that is $4 trillion investment it requires. Because that was announced in 2013, right? And 10 years later, the project cost is definitely going to increase. So China claims these economic corridors, it will not only build infrastructure in countries that cannot afford to do it themselves, but also it will boost global trade. So the way China is projecting it, that it will be a win-win situation for all. But what do you think is the actual aim of China through Belt and Road Initiative? Because any decision that is taken by any country, it is on the basis of the national interest. On the basis of national interest. So what is the actual aim? Some people are saying because of the rising status of China in the global affairs, China wants to strengthen its economic leadership. So when you look at it from the geopolitical lens, China's aim through Belt and Road Initiative is to strengthen its economic leadership. Not only that, China wants to assert presence at global level. While gaining the political leverage over its neighbors, China's aim is to assert its presence on the global stage. So it runs parallel to China's growing assertiveness in its bilateral relationship. Then another interest is to expand Chinese currency. They want to create a vast network of railways, energy pipelines, highways, and some 50 special economic zones, all of which would expand the international use of Chinese currency. So what are the objectives of Belt and Road Initiative? This will be able to provide access to markets for excess capacity of China. China will be able to access new markets for its excess capacity in the manufacturing and construction industries, particularly steel, cement, and machinery, which will be utilized in the development of infrastructure. And we all know that China has been doing a lot in the infrastructure sector. In fact, they have set some records of building some infrastructures like hospitals and highways in days, in a matter of weeks. Not just that, it is going to also boost the trade with the rich European markets because they'll be able to establish transportation links. So it is going to, in the long run, boost trade. And another objective is to develop western regions of China. If you look at the map of China, the westernmost region of China, let me show you this region I'm talking about. This is highly desertic and mountainous, and there is water scarcity also, right? So this part is not developed, or in other words, we can say this is highly underdeveloped. So the objective is that this underdeveloped region, China will be able to increase economic activities in these regions. And not just that, this is the Xinjiang region we are talking about. So this region has, ethnic tensions. The Uyghur Muslims, they reside here. And this region is regarded as a vulnerability of China. So if China is going to increase economic activities, then these ethnic tensions may subside, because it is generally believed that whenever you will go for economic development, economic activities in any region, the radicalization or the protests, because the youth gets involved in economic activities, they start earning, so they tend to get away from radicalization and involve themselves in their work, economic activities. So, in short, this is going to reduce the vulnerability of China in the long run. Another objective is creating alternative energy supply routes for China. Because we all are aware of the fact that Strait of Hormuz and Strait of Malacca, these are the strategic choke points of China, through which almost all of China's maritime oil imports passes, which makes China vulnerable in case it is going to have any dispute with India specifically, because India is dominant in the Strait of Malacca. Another objective is to increase its influence, because this is going to strengthen its influence over countries in both Western and Eastern hemispheres. So, this project will reinforce its ambitions to become a maritime superpower and develop financial institutions competing with Bretton Woods system like World Bank and IMF. And we all are aware of this thing already, that China led financial institutions have been established like AIIB, New Development Bank. They have been well received by the countries across the world. This will provide new investment options because China has accumulated a large amount of capital over the last few decades. China currently, in terms of PPP, it is the world's largest economy, and in terms of nominal GDP, it is at the second position. And China is now looking for new investment opportunities that preserve and increase the value of that accumulated capital. I told you, internationalization of Chinese currency is also one of the major objective. Just like US dollars, China wants to internationalize China's currency. And this project also serves as a counter to Asia pivot policy. It is a strategic response to the military rebalancing of United States to Asia, which is famously called as Asia pivot strategy. Now, another question is, do you think China is trying to re-engage its ties? Well, Belt and Road Initiative is not just an initiative, it is a response. For one, it is a response to former US President Barack Obama's pivot to Asia policy and to the growing salience of Indo-Pacific maritime geography as well. Because in the recent years, Indo-Pacific has become central to the security and foreign policies of countries like US, Japan, Australia, India, UK, France, Germany, and the countries of ASEAN. So China is working to strengthen global economic links to its western regions, which have been neglected historically. And China is promoting economic development in the western province of Xinjiang, where the Communist Party of China has started a brutal campaign of intimidation and violence against the Uyghur Muslims. So this is also a priority. So is securing long-term energy supplies from Central Asia and the Middle East. But why is this initiative sparking global concern? Let us deal with this. As Belt and Road Initiative raises various concerns for countries around the globe, some say that this is nothing but economic imperialism. Very, very important. Because it is going to give China too much leverage over other countries, especially the smaller and poor countries. If they are not able to pay back their debt, then China may compel them, to surrender some part of their land. They may lose sovereignty, or they'll have to become the puppet of China. They'll have to do what China says to them. Like For example, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka that has been now given to China on lease for 99 years because Sri Lanka was not able to pay back the loan that it has taken for the development of this port. Then another reason is China is going to expand its military presence through these. Because some experts they worry expanded Chinese commercial presence around the world, it will eventually lead to expanded military presence. In fact, in 2016, China established its first overseas military base in Djibouti, and experts says that almost all the ports and other transport infrastructure being built can be dual use. It can be used for commercial as well as for military purposes. So they're talking about the militarization of supply chain. But what do you think is India's say in the project? Well, India has refused to participate because of China Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a branch of Belt and Road Initiative. India has for a very long time emphasized that connectivity projects it should respect the participating country's sovereignty and territorial integrity, that these projects should not create unsustainable debt burden, it should not involve such a malicious intent behind it, because there is no transparency so far. China has not announced the details of this project. So India is very adamant. India believes that any connectivity project should involve transparent accounting, that it should create benefits for the local economy, as in, the local people of the region should be employed in case such infrastructure development projects are being made. Is the plan becoming a debt trap? Well, China has been accused of non-transparent financing model for Belt and Road Initiative, which has led to debt trap in certain countries due to Chinese loans that are offered for the Belt and Road Initiative projects on higher interest rate. And the affected nations are Djibouti, we have Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Maldives, Mongolia, Montenegro, we have Pakistan and Tajikistan. These are among the poorest in the respective regions, and this will allow more than half of their foreign debt to China. I already have discussed the story of Sri Lanka, which is well documented. There was an unsustainable debt burden, to China. So in 2018, Malaysian president suspended work on certain Belt and Road Initiative ventures in his country over the concerns of the increasing debts to China. And for similar reasons, the government of Myanmar has significantly scaled down the Kyakpu port project. And in Pakistan too, the voices against the conditionalities tied to Chinese activities and loans have grown louder. So what are the major projects under Belt and Road Initiative? China's true motives behind investment are China-centric international economic integration, production networks, hegemony in Asia-Pacific region, and eventually the global economy. So China is very, aggressively doing this FDIs, giving FDIs, foreign direct investment. And since the announcement, since the inception, there has been a sudden rise in infrastructure investment in Belt and Road Initiative projects. They have been investing in Africa, like in Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda, other landlocked countries, transportation networks, they're working on that. Apart from that, Central, South, and West Asia, including Pakistan, Bangladesh, Russia, Iran, and Kazakhstan. 80% contracts are concentrated in this region. How can we forget China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Bangladesh-China-India Myanmar Economic Corridor, that is BCIM, and Colombo Port City project in Sri Lanka. BCIM is one of the corridors of Belt and Road project only. It aims to connect China's eastern city of Kunming with India's Kolkata. This will be connected through Dhaka in Bangladesh and Mandalay in Myanmar. So, Central Asia also, China has planned to complete 4,000 kilometers of railway and 10,000 kilometers of highway within the Central Asian region. In East Asia, since the launch of this project, China has signed various contracts worth $90 billion dollars with the East Asian region. And the biggest contracts have been with Indonesia, Malaysia, and Laos. With Europe, major projects include a freight train project from Ukraine to Kazakhstan through Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and eventually China will be covering a distance of 5,475 kilometers. The Greek port, the China Belarus Industrial Park, the Green Ecological Silk Road Investment Funds are some other major projects in Europe. But there are challenges to this project. The first challenge is poor governance and instability. The different levels of development and the poor governance conditions of countries, along with along the Belt and Road Initiative, it may affect infrastructure development. It may affect trade and investment in these regions. And political instability in the increasing number of countries like Syria, Yemen, Sudan, you know, this poses serious security issues for this project. Another challenge is separatist movement and ethnic tensions in Xinjiang province. I'm talking about the Uyghur Muslims, and another challenge is cooperation from neighboring nations. Because China has many sovereignty related disputes, border disputes with neighboring countries like India, which makes them uncooperative with Belt and Road Initiative development. Furthermore, the potential ecological and environmental consequences, particularly in developing countries along the BRI, makes the project undesirable. This is inclusive of India. So there are many concerns about the contracts and the jobs, since most of them will be given to Chinese firms and people. So domestic labor will not be provided in the regions like to the local people. So there have been protests by people in several countries over the implementation of it, and concerns are regarding debt trap. Because experts have pointed out how China is pushing countries in its debt trap by providing loans for unviable projects and increasing leverage. Pakistan has already fallen victim to the Chinese debt trap as it has taken $50 billion, dollars, which are going to balloon to $80 billion dollars over a 30-year period. Likewise, countries such as Cambodia and Sri Lanka, they have also fallen into the debt trap of China. There are transparency concerns. Many instances of nations like Nepal and Pakistan has abandoned the deal with China to build the infrastructure due to closed tender process and strict deal conditions. So to answer this, to counter this, what are the major initiatives by other countries? First is Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, announced in 2017, where Japan and India are working closely for their own development cooperation with third countries under the banner of Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. Another major initiative is US International Development Finance Corporation. This is to compete with AIIB, which substantially finances Belt and Road Initiative. Then there is Blue Dot Network. Actually, US and Australia have joined Japan in announcing plans through this network for an alternative to Belt and Road Initiative. Another initiative and the biggest one, the latest one, is Build Back Better World. This is a counter to Belt and Road Initiative. G7 leaders have proposed this project to counter China's rising influence across 100 plus countries through Belt and Road Initiative. And what is Belt and Road initiatives, as in this counter that is being announced, the counter to BRI. What is this? This is a proposal, even though it is at a very early stage, but it aims to address the infrastructure investment deficit in developing and lower income countries. And China has capitalized on its gap through its 2,600 Belt and Road Initiative projects with trillions of dollars of investment. Now, question is, how could India counter Belt and Road Initiative? First, India has launched many connectivity initiatives like Project Mosam is there. This is India's soft power strategy. This is under the Ministry of Culture. Its objective is to reconnect and re-establish communication links between the countries of the Indian Ocean and improving their cultural values. And this project focuses on the natural wind phenomena, especially monsoon winds used by Indian sailors in ancient times for maritime trade, which created relations amongst nations. Another is Sagarmala project, which is a port-led direct and indirect development project with a focus on infrastructure and connectivity. Then we are also developing Chabahar port in Iran, and the unique location of this port provides India access not only to Iran but also to Afghanistan, Central Asia and Europe. So India will be able to bypass Pakistan and considerably reduce current travel distances and time. Chabahar is also the gateway to international north-south transport corridor, which was initiated by India in 2000. We'll be talking about this in detail, don't worry, in future in IR classes. Then, naval ports India is building in Indian Ocean countries such as Madagascar, Seychelles and Mauritius. Then India is also active in Indian Ocean Rim Association, which is a grouping named IORA, established in 1997. Then alliances we are making with like-minded countries like Japan. Japan has agreed to promote Act East policy of India by developing and fostering reliable, sustainable and resilient infrastructure, and this strengthens connectivity within India and between India and other countries. So, why should India join the Belt and Road Initiative? This was actually a question that was asked in UPSC in 2017. Like, what are the benefits? First, economic benefits. It will provide many economic benefits like boosting to trade, investment, and business engagement. It will provide direct access to Central Asia and Afghanistan, because this would ease the tension between India and Pakistan, as it will remove the challenges in the implementation of two major energy cooperation projects, that is Tapi pipeline and IPI gas pipeline. So these projects are really important for India's energy security, because India is an energy deficient country. Also, if we join Belt and Road Initiative, it will improve our ties with China. And security wise, the development of Gilgit-Baltistan region through Belt and Road Initiative, it would reduce security threats in the region. Also, all neighboring nations except Bhutan and several other countries from Central Asia and Southeast Asia have joined Belt and Road Initiative. Therefore, not joining this may result in the isolation of India, and this may give us geopolitical benefits also, because we can sort out some issues and differences which can be addressed by means of economic integration. So nearly every country across different continents have joined Belt and Road Initiative. It is particularly important in times of increasing protectionism across the world. However, the success of this project is mainly dependent on how China is going to manage its debt, as many countries that have joined this are in debt crisis, and China needs to address the issues of transparency and employment issues as well. Moreover, the political stability and regional cooperation in these countries along Belt and Road Initiative, I think, is very significant for the success of Belt and Road Initiative. So, recently there are reasons for which there is a decrease in investment, like there are environmental concerns, particularly in Serbia coal mining, that is facing public flack, because China tends to ignore the environmental standards by working on these projects. So that is one thing, and that this imposes dangerous working conditions, because local workers are complaining in Georgia about low wages and dangerous working conditions in the railway project. Then there are concerns related to privatization, because in Greece people protested against privatization of ports and long working hours. Also, transparency is one matter, Major changes in public sentiment have taken place, especially low and middle income countries. So they have to cancel Belt and Road Initiative projects because of major change in the public sentiment. And there has been delay in project completion also. And counter initiatives have been announced by the Western countries, because of which there has been decrease in investment. So why do you think countering Belt and Road Initiative is necessary? Uh, well, because these projects aim to facilitate cross-border transportation of goods and access to energy, so creating demand for existing excess capacity in Chinese industries. But the overall focus is on developing transportation, logistics, communication. And this would reduce trade and transaction costs for China's trade. It gives them more market access. It ensures a stable supply of energy to China. And China has tried to rope in more countries and raise the acceptance level of this project over time through various summit, forums, and conferences. And many countries, including India, they would see an adverse trade impact on their products' competitiveness and market access due to Chinese competition. So therefore, I think countering this China's Belt and Road Initiative via international projects is a necessity. This is how you can end this. So with this, we are done with this session. So what I can say is that this is like the complete coverage of Belt and Road Initiative project. Next time, in the next class, we are going to work upon Hong Kong crisis. We will be discussing Uyghur Muslim issue, and other issues. This is it. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Take care.